I'd like to talk a little bit about how we went about designing these eye mechanisms that are being used on movie sets and some other puppets right now. All of our Mr. Roboto designs start in 3D CAD. It's critical. We actually do the 3D scanning in-house now. In this case, we started with the underskull of the animatronic that we were working on. And when we scan that, we get that into our CAD system. We get to figure out and see exactly how much space we have to work with. You start placing components, seeing where you're going to clash, and then you know kind of what your form factor will be with the design that you're going to make. So we use the latest in CAD software to get a precise design and the kinematic geometry in the virtual world before any part is cut. So our mechanism here uses the latest state-of-the-art servos. It's not the cheapest approach. In fact, these servos are about twice to many times more over the cost of some of the servos out there. But they do offer the fastest speed and the most power, and that's very desirable when you have eyelids that have to move not just a piece of little plastic most of the time, but a skin attached to it, whether it's silicone or foam latex or whatnot. So it's very key to have that kind of power there, of speed. So it's important also to have a rigid frame to attach all the servos and mechanisms to. It's why we machine all of our parts from solid aircraft aluminum. Anything that flexes and bends in there excessively will basically kill all of the control you would love to have in the end. If it's too wobbly and you force it with a servo, well, all that motion you were hoping to get in the eye just went to bending the frame. That's not acceptable. So to that end, when we're machining all these parts, the tolerance and patience is the key to making a good mechanical eye. In some of these cases, the parts had to be within 1/1000th of an inch, and then, even then, had to be carefully honed into its respective mating part. And this is just one design, and of course there's many designs out there, and sometimes you don't need that kind of precision, but on a human eye size it's very telling if it's sloppy. So, important to make it very correct, very tight, and be very careful when you're doing that. So it's also key to make sure that all of your hardware, after you dry fit it, to make sure all the mechanisms will work and be perfect and not clash, make sure that it's assembled carefully with a Loctite or a similar thread locking compound. I personally like Loctite's 242. Unless somebody's giving me a real hard time, then I'll use Loctite 271, and just know that I'll never get that screw out again unless I torch it. So Loctite 242 is our compound of choice here. So the reason is that even if one 80 screw comes loose, you'll have a wobbly eye that will be very frustrating to your whole crew on the set or wherever you're installing that, because it can be unfun to try to go in there and fix it, as accessible as we try to make these designs. Note on the eyelids, those are one of the more hard parts to get right. There's a number of ways people have gone about making them. Many times people will vac form them, and that's what we've done here as well. The key is the form, or a lot of people call that the buck. That is the pattern that you will use as a vac form base. It's a number of ways to make those. What we do is actually surface mill on our 3-axis mill the buck based on our CAD design. So we don't mold or snap mold the eyes at all. We take control and and push it a little bit farther there. The reason we do that is because I personally do not like and hate seeing a little gap between an eyelid and the eye in any animatronic. And if you watch some movies and some animatronics, you'll see that. Just look closely, and it's just it gives it away immediately. So if you notice, our eyes actually contact the eyelids. Now, if they were eyes that were made of acrylic, this would be not a great idea. And you're going to scratch them up pretty quick. You're going to try to put some maybe Shin-Etsu V50 silicone fluid on there to hide it in between each take. These eyes, though, that we've chosen are made of glass. It has its disadvantages for sure. They're a little bit harder to work with. You have to make sure your design is right, but it's really hard to scratch those, and that's why we've gone with that. The eyelids themselves are made of vac form PETG, which is a relatively soft, transparent plastic, as you guys know. It's very easy to vac form, but it's strong and is really good at holding skins for these eye blinks. So that's a couple notes on the eyelids. One way to do it, many other possibilities.